Your attention, masters, mistresses. All systems functional for the Everything Geek podcast.
Hey, this is Rich McDonald, and I play Commander David Mason on Call of Duty Black Ops 2. And you're listening to Everything Geek podcast.
It's James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and Master Plo Koon in Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you're listening to Everything Geek, the podcast.
Hey, it's Leif Gamfert. I played Uncle Ben's killer in The Amazing Spider-Man, and you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast.
Hello, I'm Simon Fisherbecker. You probably know me better as Dorian Moldovar from Doctor Who, or the Fat Friar from Harry Potter. And this is Everything Geek podcast.
Face it, Tiger. You just hit the jackpot with the Everything Geek podcast.
You're listening to the Everything Geek podcast, bringing you interviews from your favorite films and TV shows every week, and all of the latest news. Here's your host, Ruari Williamson.
Hello everyone, you're listening to the Everything Geek podcast. I'm your host Rory, and joining me is co-host Al.
Hey everyone.
And also joining us today is a very special guest. We have actor Sam Coleman, best known for playing Wylis, aka Young Hodor, in Game of Thrones. He will be playing Bud in the upcoming film Leatherface. How are you today, Sam?
I am very well, thank you very much. How are you?
Very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you join us on the podcast today, just a few days after your birthday, no less.
Yeah, this is by far my best present.
Getting right into the questions, Sam, just for some background information, can you tell us how did you decide you wanted to become an actor?
Well, I could go through my whole life story, but we'd be here a while, so to try and keep it succinct, basically, my mum dragged me to a sort of theatre school when I was younger to build up some confidence, because unbelievably I was quite a shy child. You wouldn't know it now. But yeah, and after a few weeks of sort of crying and not really being sure about it, I started to get into it and love it. And since then, wherever I've lived in the UK, and we've moved around quite a lot, I've always gone to some kind of drama club or other. And it was when I was 18, I was doing Roger and Hammerstein's Oklahoma in my local high school. And the director, Adam Hepkin, came up to me and sort of said, have you considered doing acting sort of professionally? And until then, I'd always thought of it as like a hobby. But I joined a sort of local agency and thought, I might get a job as an extra or in an advert for toothpaste or something. And literally one of the second auditions I got was for Leatherface. And I didn't expect to get a part in a major horror film, given I'd not done anything before. And I did. And then Game of Thrones came along, got that as well. So I've been rather fortunate, I think.
Yeah, very fortunate. I mean, two very different genres, but both very popular as well. So the fact that they were two of the first roles you booked is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I've been so fortunate with everything that's happened to be around at my time, and that people have been looking for someone like me, and that for some reason they think I'm good enough. So there we go.
Well, if you weren't good enough, we won't be having this conversation. So you're definitely good enough is my point, but the casting directors are whose opinions matter most, of course.
They seem to like me, so... Yeah.
Absolutely. So, getting into Game of Thrones, of course, can you tell us how were you originally cast as the Young Hodor in the show?
Well, I got an audition through, because they're so secretive at Game of Thrones, the part was for large stable boy, age 12. So I was like, well, at the time I was 18, so I was thinking, I'm a bit old for this one. Has my agent put me through to the right kind of casting call, or is this a bit weird? But it was Game of Thrones, so I wasn't going to say no. So I turned up with the tiniest bit of script that gave no information about any of the characters. All of their names were changed. I think young Ned was called something like Walder or something like that, just to throw you off the scent. And I just had to run on in the casting room, pretend to sword fight with some young child. Little did I know that would end up being young Benjen. But yeah, and I thought I was going for a stable boy part. All of the other kids in the audition room were like 12 or 13 years old, and I thought, I'm not going to get this, but it's Game of Thrones, so I'm going to give it my best shot. Maybe they'll see me and think, oh, he could play another character in the future. But then I got the call a few weeks later saying I've got the part. So, and the rest is history, I guess.
Definitely. It's really interesting. I mean, obviously, Game of Thrones, like with so many other popular franchises out there, as you said, so secretive, but it's just really interesting that they were looking for a different age, and yet you just happened to fit the description they wanted anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you'd struggle to find a 12 or 13-year-old my sort of height and size to play the role.
Yeah, well, it's very fortunate in this instance that you were that height and size.
Yeah.
So, were you a fan of Game of Thrones prior to your casting?
I was a fan. I wasn't a fan until about a month before the audition came through. Because although I knew I was going to love it, because I sort of love all that medieval stuff, and I was quite into history when I was younger, and a lot of my friends watched it. Because I was doing my A-levels, I thought, nah, I'm not going to do it because I'll get into it and it will distract me and I'll procrastinate and I won't achieve in my A-levels. The week before my first A-level exam, I caved and decided to binge Series 1, I think, through to about 3 in a week. And then after my A-levels, I watched the rest of the series. I was about halfway through Season 4 when I got the audition call through. Did the audition, then binged the rest of Season 5 as soon as I realised I got the part, and yeah, I felt like when I was filming, like I was sort of on like a Make-A-Wish Foundation tour or something, like I was a fan brought in to see the set because it's so amazing. There's all these people I've seen on TV and stuff walking around, and it was a blast, absolute blast.
Yeah, definitely. It's a really interesting way to, get into the show, as you said, because like you only started watching it just before you got the role, and then you finished watching it just after you got the role.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting way to do it. And would Hodor have been among your favourite characters even before you played the younger version of him?
I mean, I think whoever your favourite characters are or aren't, and I think, if I remember rightly, I think Tyrion, Lord Varys, and Littlefinger actually were my faves at the time, because I like a little bit of sinister and sort of smart and cunningness. But I mean, anyone who watches the show has got to love Hodor because he's one of the few characters that are genuinely kind-hearted and selfless.
That's a really great answer. So, if you had to describe the overall experience working with the cast and crew of Game of Thrones, how would you describe it?
Phenomenal. That's about the best word I can think to describe it. It was an absolute blast. I know I've already said the word blast about 4 times, so I'll say it a few more times. But it was such a blast. I mean, every single member of cast, crew, the drivers, and the lovely people of Belfast, hoteliers and people working in the shops. That everyone is just so lovely over there, and the crew, everyone knows exactly what they're doing. I mean, it was season 6, so they've had 5 seasons to sort of get into the swing of things. Everyone knew exactly what they were doing. Everyone was so nice, so kind. Everyone had so much time for each other as well, which in a lot of film sets and TV sets you don't see that because people are always focused on the thing they're doing and nothing else. But everyone was sort of had so much time to discover what all the other people were doing and see how they could help. And it was just one big sort of family, really, I guess is a good term to use.
Would have to be a big family. There's so many characters on the show after all.
Oh yeah, and then if you add the crew onto that, you're talking sort of American TV documentary style large family.
Yeah, that's going to turn into an idea for them, and from you first of all, it's going to become an American TV documentary or something. All of the people that work on Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Now, this might be a bit trickier because I'm sure you have a lot of favourite memories from working on Game of Thrones and filming on it, but if you had to pick just one, or maybe 2 if I'm feeling generous, which would be your favourite?
When I met Isaac Hempstead Wright, who plays Bran, he invited me into where he was sort of sitting waiting to film, and I mean, Isaac's amazing. I love Isaac. He's great. But Isaac, his mum, and his acting coach all do this thing while they're waiting to go on set, where they sing in sort of a comic operatic style and make up operas about random sort of inanimate objects. and so they let me join in with that, and that was so much fun. It felt like hours passed where we were sitting in a sort of container singing about a chair in an operatic fashion. It was great fun.
Wow, that sounds absolutely amazing. It's very different from a lot of favourite memories I've heard when I've asked that question about different TV shows, but that's so interesting. It really is great. So
And I think it's important to keep sort of happy and entertained and keep yourself sort of energetic in between takes and in between shots, because otherwise you can weigh yourself down and the energy's gone. Obviously, we want to give the best performance we can, so that was a great way to do that, I thought.
Yeah, I completely agree, because of course you're always working long hours if it's a TV show or film that you're working on. I mean, everyone does in the industry, but like that's definitely a really great thing to do to keep yourself entertained, keep the adrenaline going as well, I guess.
Yeah, and it's so much fun. So much fun.
Definitely. And speaking of other things you enjoy doing, outside of acting, you're also a poet. So I'm curious, what and who are your inspirations for writing poetry?
I guess I always loved sort of quirky sort of comedy poetry when I was younger. Sort of the what's his face? Oh, I can't remember his name. The really famous guy who writes sort of quite funny poems. Spike Milligan, there we go. Hilarious, and Oscar Wilde and people like that. But and so that sort of helped, and because I was quite musical as well, that all fed into that. And then as I grew older, it was in my English A level actually. I started reading about Philip Larkin. He's so grumpy, and his poetry is so cynical and not depressing. Sylvia Plath's depressing, but Philip Larkin's quite cynical. But I really I felt what he was writing, and I could sort of, it sounds so cheesy and cliche, but I really felt like I could picture being Philip Larkin in those situations and observing what he observes, and that sort of then sort of inspired me to start writing my poetry and stuff, less like songs, less with sort of, there once was a man called Peter who lived in wherever, something that rhymes with Peter, and sort of starting to write more deeper poetry, I guess.
It's really interesting. That's really great story. That's really great story on who your inspirations were in terms of people, and also what inspires you to write particular types of poetry. Very interesting. And you were mentioning as well that one person, you mentioned Philip Larkin, I believe, you really understood his type of poetry, and
yeah.
I guess in some way that's kind of the actor in you as well, because when you're acting you have to get into the character, and you also really understood what he was referring to, so
yeah.
There's a bit of a connection there, really, if you think about it.
Yeah, and also because I'm quite a sort of cynical, not cynical, but I'm quite critical-minded, I believe is the term. Because Philip Larkin's poetry is always centered on him sort of observing something ridiculously silly in society and sort of just commenting on the sort of benign silliness of it. And I love that.
Yeah, definitely. So my final question for you, Sam, do you have any upcoming acting roles or any other projects that you would like to talk about?
Well, I'm currently touring the UK in a concert production called The Magic of the Musicals. I believe we're in Doncaster on, I may be wrong, the 23rd of October possibly. But to do a little plug, you can go to hepkin.com, hepkin.com, and find out more about where we're going on the tour if you want to come and see me sing a bit with people like Kerry Ellis, loads of really big names in musical theatre, so it's great fun. I have yesterday, in fact, received a call from my agent saying I've got the part of quite an exciting film role I auditioned for a while back, but I'm not allowed to say anything about that yet. But I guess that's kind of an exclusive, but a vague one.
The best kind of exclusives, the ones you can't even decipher.
But yeah, we're going to be filming in quite an exotic country as well, so I'm quite excited about that.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and Game of Thrones films in a lot of exotic places, so...
Yeah, really... although I was in Belfast for the whole... I love Northern Ireland, but it's not Spain or Croatia, is it?
That's true. That's true. Maybe if you get another role on the show. But
Yeah.
it's really
A
interesting.
spin-off series, Hodor in Esteros, is it?
Yeah,
Essos. Hodor and Essos.
yeah. That I'd actually watch that. I think there's a lot of people that would watch that.
Just young Hodor walking around Marine with his top off, enjoying the sun.
Yeah, that would be amazing. But yeah, I'll definitely be sure to keep an eye out for both projects you mentioned, the tour and the film, which cannot be named. Even I don't know it, so that tells you everything. Yeah, that's all of my questions for you, Sam. Thank you for answering them, and I'll let my co-host Al ask his now.
Thanks a lot for joining us, Sam. I know
my pleasure.
Rory sort of ruined my hold the door joke, so just bring that back around. How much did you know about that big reveal? I mean, that's pretty much the biggest thing that everyone wasn't expected for the Hodor character.
Yeah, I mean, I actually knew very little. I didn't even find out I was playing young Hodor until I was at the Mechanic Studios, at the paint hall where they film a lot of stuff, getting fitted for a costume. And I still thought I was just playing a stable boy at that time. And the costume lady said to me, "I think the older Hodor wears something a bit like this." And I went, "What? The older who? What? Am I playing the? I didn't know this." And then it sort of transpired I was playing that. But even when I was on set filming and I'd had the script, all of Christian's bits, apart from the bits that I really needed to understand the scene, were completely blacked out on the script. So I had no idea that Hodor was going to die if he does die, in the present time. And so that was a shock to me when I watched it on TV with my family when it came out. But all I knew was that Mira was going to shout, "Hold the door," as they were sort of getting attacked by White Walkers, and that because Bran was in the past, that was going to come through to me, and I was going to do a shaky chicken dance on the hold the door a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing, heartbreaking as well. You know, that's just a testament to your performance. You've done a fantastic job in that. Thank you for that. I mean, even the fact that we all know that Hodor from the beginning of the whole season, for the beginning of season 1, how would you have known that you were going to play Hodor when your character clearly, he talks?
Yeah, and I mean, kudos and all credit to the writers, both George, Martin, and also the sort of David and Dan and all the people who wrote specifically that episode, because that was when I read the script, I was like, that's amazing, like, because you wouldn't think hold the door, you just wouldn't think that, and it just blows my mind how incredible their imagination is and how amazingly they managed to get it down on a script so that people like me can do our jobs.
Yeah, I saw the little twitch. Yeah. But no, it was a fantastic job. Well done for that. I know you sort of write poetry and whatnot, but in terms of, I guess, in the geek world, are you a geek yourself? And if so, can you share any interest in the geek world?
I would say I dabble in the geek. I wouldn't call myself a fully fledged geek. I feel like I would be if I had the time. I mean, I've recently been getting quite into sort of more geeky stuff. I'm watching Luke Cage at the moment on Netflix, and I'm in love with the Netflix Marvel series that are going on at the moment. They're so good. Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and obviously Luke Cage, and Iron Fist, which is coming out soon, which my friend Finn Jones, who was in Leatherface and Thrones, is playing. That's going to be amazing. I'm really excited for that. But I love things like Doctor Who and Sherlock and all that. I just don't have time to get further into it, really.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there is a lot out there, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like even ourselves, even me, I'm a huge Geek fan, but there's so much stuff that I put behind the back burner to catch up on, and I end up not watching it.
Yeah.
So no, I get it. What are your hidden passions or work that most people will be surprised to hear about?
Hidden passions. Well, I mean, you talked about my poetry already, but I mean that's a sort of dying art. So a lot less people are writing poetry. People are writing. That's good because it's kind of poetry to music. I play the piano, which I guess isn't really a secret thing, but because my music's very personal to me, and I'm not keen on sharing it with the world unless it's either whimsical or surprisingly good, which is rare. Any hidden passions? I'm just trying to think. I jog. That's a very surprising thing because as a person of my size, jogging, it seems quite unusual, but I do jog. I enjoy jogging. I have to take my asthma inhaler with me, but I enjoy jogging.
Fair enough. It is a good passion to hold on to. But no, that's all my questions. Thanks so much. Again, you've done an amazing job in Game of Thrones.
Thank you. And
thank you for joining us. I'll just pass you back to Rory.
So that's all of our questions for you today, Sam. It's been a pleasure talking to you on the podcast.
It's been even more of a pleasure for me to talk to you guys. So thank you so much for having me, guys.
Thank you. Don't make me blush, though. Yeah, hopefully we can talk to you again at some point.
Oh, anytime. Just give me a bell.
I will definitely do that. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon. So take care.
Ta-ra.
Bye.
Thanks, Sam. Take care. Bye.
Make sure to check out our podcast links. Check out our website, www.everythinggeekpodcast.com/EGP. Check out our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/user/everythinggeekcast. Check us out on Twitter, twitter.com/everythinggeekp. Check us out on Instagram, instagram.com/official everythinggeekpodcast. Check out our Mixcloud profile, www.mixcloud.com/everythinggeekpodcast. Email us at the following email, everythinggeekpodcast@gmail.com. Check out our companion podcast, Everything Geek Comiccast, www.facebook.com/everythinggeekcomiccast. Make sure to check out the hosts' YouTube channels. Mine is www.youtube.com/user/separatist-destroyers. Check out Al's Twitter, twitter.com/mygirma. Check out Sam Coleman's website, www.samcolemanactor.co.uk, and check out channel 1138 where we broadcast live from, www.channel1138.com. Geeks out, everyone.
Geeks out.
Well, yeah, I grew up in East Germany, and I somehow, the idea to become an actor crossed my mind when I was 15, 16 years old, and I also saw it as a way to
really flexible gymnastics, and I decided to become one after being a gymnast and a dancer as a child, and always being like one of the most flexible children in the class. And then one day, seeing a contortionist on TV.